We've said in the past, oh, you'll discriminate against blacks and people of color, and that certainly continues. But these are just anybody, whites, anybody, and they're under siege, and they're unapologetic, and they're not listening to any appeal. And it is the closest graphic example I've seen of a police state going on in Minneapolis than I've seen in my lifetime.
Yes. I always go to the Reverend Al Charlatan for a take on whatever's going on in the world, especially the police state stuff. Hey, where's Tawana Brawley? How are the Crown Heights riots going on there? I was in Queens the other day. They were chanting, "We are Hamas," right? We support Hamas. They're the Hamas people. The Reverend Al Charlatan, NBC News, pays him 7 figures to provide nuggets of wisdom like that, closest he's ever seen to a police state. Not Iran or Venezuela. No. Minneapolis. Because illegal alien gang member child rapists are being arrested and taken off the street. And the Democrats really want the illegal alien child rapists on the street because they're Democrats. Democrats, I think, is the problem that we have with that. Well. A very happy Thursday to you, and welcome back. How did it get to be Thursday already? The time just flies, doesn't it? Isn't that amazing? Remarkable things. Speaking of time flying, I saw the mayor of Chicago, let's go, Brandon Johnson, and he's talking about he'd go home to his wife when he was a school teacher in Chicago and his wife would say, how was work today, honey? And he'd say, well, a kid fell out a window. And say, well, it's perfectly normal. You go to school in Chicago and, kids are going to be falling out of windows. He was proud, though. Somebody caught him. He was very proud. That's the Democrat Party, mayor of Chicago. It's a mental illness everywhere you look. Just extraordinary stuff. Also, an ICE agent shot an illegal alien from Venezuela that attacked him, one of 3 people attacking a federal law enforcement officer, federal law enforcement agent, and one was hitting him with a shovel. The police officer pulled out his weapon and fired apparently more than one shot and hit one of the illegal alien Democrats in the leg. I guess following instructions from Joe Biden. It's not clear.
Teaching a cop when there's an unarmed person coming at him with a knife or something to shoot him in the leg instead of in the heart.
See, that's Joe Biden gave that good advice. You got an unarmed person coming at him with a knife. Got an unarmed person. That's Joe. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. An unarmed person coming at him with a knife. This guy had a shovel, and there's an old saying. There's an old saying in Minnesota. Never bring a shovel to a gunfight. Never bring a shovel to a gunfight. And I don't know how that translates into Spanish, but we'll work on that. And that turned into more mayhem in Minnesota because what used to be Minnesota nice and a very normal state full of very normal people is now Tartoland. It's a loony bin. We should put a fence around at least Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I'm told Rochester also. Oh, Rochester. See, that's a racist name for a place. They should do away with the name Rochester. Isn't that amazing? Angry mob caught on camera hurling profanities, demands at federal agents leave, and this is it. They're driven out of a Minnesota Mexican restaurant. And it's a Mexican restaurant. It's maybe full of illegal aliens. They shouldn't go in there to eat. They should go in there to sweep. They should, and I don't mean the floor. I mean, there should be a sweep of illegal aliens. But an angry mob of Democrats, 100% violent, mentally ill Democrats, hurling profanities and demand that federal agents, their ICE agents, leave a Minnesota Mexican restaurant. I think it's kind of funny that the ICE guys' sense of humor. Hey, anybody hungry? Yeah, kind of hungry. Hey, there's a Mex place around the corner. Anybody want Mexican? Like, hell yeah, let's go get some Mexican. Maybe there'll be some illegal aliens there, and they'll run out the back door when we come in the front, and then we'll just order and laugh and have margaritas, and it'll be real nice. But the Democrat Party is a violent, vile, anti-American, anti-civilizational force living among us. Honestly, if you're this virulently anti-law enforcement, you are anti-civilization. And that puts you in good with the Democrat Party today because they're the left. They're not liberals. Isn't it amazing? And great headlines like federal agent shoots man in leg, leading to protests. And so when they say protests, that involves fireworks and assaulting police and and terrorizing neighborhoods. And then the politicians like Jacob Fry, what a piece of work that guy is, and Tim Walz, what a work of peace that guy is, and just what losers the Democrats have. Extraordinary stuff. These people, can I just say these people? So more violence last night in Minneapolis, of all places. You know, they burned Kenosha. The Democrats burned Kenosha, and they tried to kill a young guy who is the neighborhood community pool lifeguard, and he's out there trying to protect civilization. And the Democrats attacked. They had that child molester just out of prison, and the other guy just out of the mental institution attacking him, right? And they tried to lynch him, the 17-year-old, because, hey, don't interfere with our looting and burning, and come on, we're committing arson over here. We got things to do. So, but the Democrat Party insane, and the mob then drives ICE agents out of a Mexican restaurant, somewhat ironically, maybe go to a Chinese restaurant. It sounds like there might be a Laotian restaurant there with all the Laotian child rapists they've arrested in Minneapolis. The Democrats want more of that because there's something wrong with them. And also, I saw the ICE people driven out of a Mexican restaurant in Minnesota last night. But it wasn't the first time, because a Mexican restaurant to ICE also in Minneapolis. You are not welcome after the shooting of Renee Good, who is just so wonderful. Oh, and speaking of which, this matters too. First of all, the Democrats are using the 10th Amendment, which they did on the lead up to the American Civil War. It's the 10th Amendment. They want to use, states' rights to keep slaves. Now they want states' rights to keep illegal alien gang members doing cheap labor for them. The more things change, the more they stay the same, I suppose. But the Renee Good's family, they've hired lawyers. They've got a law firm. You'll be surprised to learn, or not, probably won't be surprised to hear this. But they got the same law firm that George Floyd's family got. I think that'll probably work out pretty well for them, because here's that line from CBS News. Renee Good's family retains George Floyd's legal firm after ICE agent shooting. Hey, man, cha-ching, cha-ching. So the family of Renee Good, the woman who was fatally shot by U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement officer, that's agent, I think, 1 week ago, is now being represented by the firm that also represented George Floyd's family. Well, George Floyd was the breadwinner for the family. He was out there passing counterfeit $20 bills at the neighborhood, Bogota. That's what she called it, right? The bodega. And Dr. Jill Biden called it a Bogota. And the poor guy, the immigrant guy working in his shop in Minneapolis, and George Floyd came in and tried to pawn a counterfeit $20 bill on him. And that's what got the ball rolling that day, is that he was committing more felonies. But never mind that. So then they got a law firm after he died of cardiac failure. The Chicago-based Romanucci, it's Romanucci and Blandin. Romanucci and Blandin, that's the law firm. They confirmed Wednesday morning that they're representing Renee Good's parents, siblings, and partner, Becca Good. She got a couple of different last names. But it turns out that this law firm, Romanucci and Blandin, they got the George Floyd family $27 million. And he didn't really even have a job. So he's out there passing, and he's doing fentanyl and methamphetamine and passing counterfeit $20 bills to legal residents, immigrants to the United States. But isn't that amazing? Yeah, in 2021, Romanucci and Blandin, they helped secure for the Floyd family a historic $27 million civil settlement with the city of Minneapolis. What a coincidence. What happened in Minneapolis? I guess Mary Tyler Moore is spitting in her grave. This is a disgrace to our country. But it's your Democrat Party. So we got that going. And yeah, now they're playing the 10th Amendment, how Illinois and Minnesota are trying to block ICE action. And the explanation is 10th Amendment, because states' rights, and they want to bring back slavery. Speaking of low intelligence theater, on Capitol Hill yesterday, there was a congressional hearing in the Senate. And it was it wasn't supposed to be funny or entertaining, but they were a big hearing, and Senator Josh Hawley was there, And the Democrats invited a woman who's an OBGYN, an obstetrician and gynecologist, Dr. Nisha Verma. They can't find Lisa Smith. They got Dr. Nisha Verma. And Dr. Nisha Verma was there, and she was under oath, and she was asked some pretty simple questions, like, can a man, she's an OBGYN, a baby doctor, and can a man have a baby was the question. And you'll never guess what happened next, but it's kind of funny. It really is just great. And speaking of Democrats, John Hinckley is in the news. John Hinckley, who shot Ronald Wilson Reagan, the risen Yahweh, and he shot James Brady, and he shot a Secret Service agent, Tim McCarthy, and a D.C. police officer, Thomas Delahanty, and he did it because he was in love with Jodie Foster, and he really loved the movie Taxi Driver, and he wanted to be Travis Bickle, who was was one of the back when Robert De Niro was an actor, and here's the headline, because this is fun, from TMZ. Ronald Reagan's would-be assassin, that's John Hinckley, of course, and the Democrats, they buy tickets to his guitar concerts, they buy his T-shirts, they support John Hinckley because they support murder and assassination. They're the Democrat Party. But here's the headline, Ronald Reagan's would-be assassin. The headline is, I turned Jodie Foster lesbian. You turned Jodie Foster lesbian? Well, you are rather unappealing as a male, I've got to say.
I'm sorry to Jodie Foster for bringing her into this.
He's sorry, Jodie Foster, for bringing her into this. He's very sorry. John Hinckley, and just amazing. And I want to get to that story because it's quite remarkable, aren't they? Aren't they great? Also, a meeting at the White House yesterday about Greenland at the old executive office building, the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, the EEOB, as it's called in Washington. And J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State of the United States, they met with these, Denmark and Greenland people. And talking about, and it's a wacky discussion, I've got to say. It's a pretty unusual discussion, but it's funny because what Trump has done now is forced the Democrat Party into defending colonialism. Now they've got it's the largest island in the world if you don't count Australia. Greenland is. It's like 830,000 square miles or something like that. It's gigantic and it's huge. There's ice on a lot of it, and President Trump keeps talking about the national security value of Greenland. And it's I got to say, this came out of nowhere, and I'm still kind of saying, what? Greenland? What are you talking about? But it does put the Democrats in the comfortable position of defending colonialism out of Europe, grabbing islands off of North America, the giant island of Greenland. And the Democrats are now pro-colonialism, pro-European colonialism, and they want the European holdings that in around the world to be secured, which is the opposite of what they say all the time, isn't it? I think it mostly is. They're very, very silly people. We are at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. And there's more, of course, because there's always more. I couldn't possibly just articulate right here all of the crazy that they've thrown at me, but I still have almost 3 hours to see how much of it I can get to. And there is plenty, I'm telling you. 888-630-9625. Did you see in Great Britain the man of the church who was arrested in Great Britain and England for saying God bless you? Now, it's not, nobody sneezed, but there were Muslims there, and they were all chanting Allahu Akbar. And then a man with a white collar, he was arrested in Great Britain because he said, God bless you. Arrested. Probably the death penalty. They're like Iran. And don't send your kids to Great Britain to be educated because they just might be radicalized in the way of Islamic extremism. And speaking of that, updates on Iran, too, because, well, they've murdered all these people, and now they say, oh, we'll stop. And in an interview last night, one of the Iranian bigwigs said, oh, no, we're going to keep enriching uranium and we're going to keep advancing our ballistic missile program because they missed Barack Obama, whose middle name is Hussein. 888-630-9625. Those wacky, rascally Democrats. All right, Michael, let us go to the telephones. We're at 888-630-9625. Let's go to Ben, calling from Quantico, Virginia. Ben, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, morning, Chris.
Hey.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, welcome. Thank you.
Hey, so first a comment and then a question. First off, yesterday was infuriating. Like, Senator Hawley was asking just a simple yes or no question to a medical professional. And it was a medical question 100% within her field, being an OBGYN, and she couldn't answer it. She knows the answer, but for some reason there's a script that says that she can't say the answer. So that's my comment on it. I don't know if you have maybe an inside scoop or with all your experience in media and everything. As far as I know, she's not running for politics.
Right.
She's a doctor at what Google tells me is a relatively successful practice. Why? Why would she follow a script like this? Like, what does she have to benefit from this? Because I get it. Hey, if she's a Democrat running for office, sure, follow the script so that you can keep your base happy, rock and roll, cool. What's the benefit here? Like, there has to be a benefit, right, for her to 100% go against all of her medical schooling, knowledge, the science, right, the science and evidence that she says she follows. What's the benefit? What does she get out of this? Like, more customers?
You're talking about Dr. Nisha Verma. Dr. Nisha Verma.
100%.
Who was testifying on a Senate hearing yesterday, and you're right, Senator Hawley asked her a very straightforward question as to whether a man can get pregnant, and that stumped her. And she's a medical doctor who graduated from medical school and presumably from a 4-year college before that, and she was incapable of answering the question. And you want to know how can that be? And you know, the answer is really, sadly, the Democrat Party and adherence to the Democrat Party because of cancel culture and because she feels threatened, and she's just bought into it. They all buy into it. It's like a cult. I was talking to my best girl the other day. We're sitting at a table somewhere in a restaurant. I said, people have been asking forever, how did Germany get all those people to become Nazis? And it's a mass brainwashing program. Well, John Hinckley. John Hinckley's out there. He's still waiting for a comment from Jodie Foster whether John Hinckley turned her into a lesbian. I suspect the answer is no. I think that's probably not true. But if you're Jodie Foster, maybe, throw him a bone. Yes, you did, John Hinckley. You still don't want to make him angry all these years later. He's still John Hinckley. And the Democrats let him out. I went to visit John Hinckley one time at St. Elizabeth's, the mental institution in Southeast Washington, D.C., when he was incarcerated there. And it's, I think I told the story once, with a CNN camera crew. And kind of walked right into the place, and they were walking us to John Hinckley's cell. And I asked him, well, we're CNN. And I said, oh, we thought you were HBO. We thought you were HBO, and they were coming in. Getting John, and then now the federal government took over that 100-year-old mental institution that was like a horror movie. It was like a scary horror movie, and they turned it into the Department of Homeland Security. That's where DHS is now. Used to be a mental institution, and that's where the crazy people living on the streets used to go. And now they're back on the streets because we closed down this giant campus of a mental institution, St. Elizabeth's Hospital. And now they're just out on the sidewalk where we leave them to fend for themselves and eventually die. because the Democrats then send city employees by, they call them workers, to go scoop up their dead bodies off the sidewalk. That's your Democrat Party. They got a plan. Got a plan for everybody. And Ben, who called in from Quantico a couple minutes ago, he's talking about Senator Josh Hawley and the OBGYN, the obstetrician gynecologist lady, who was testifying as a Democrat on Capitol Hill about whether men can get pregnant. We've got that coming up for you because it is wackadoodle-doo. I got to tell you, they've dismantled science and biology and language. Language is culture, and they have dismantled science, biology, culture, language, because they're not on Team America. And they've got this woman testifying. Boy, Dr. Nisha Verma. Verma's kind of funny, isn't it? It sounds kind of like we'll get to that. We've got that coming up, Ben. And that moment was classic, I've got to say, in congressional testimony history. I think it should certainly go down in history, because this is what the Democrat Party has done to the United States of America and to our language and our culture and to science. It's undermining Western civilization everywhere you look. And so we got that going. Let's go back to the phones, Michael. Let's go to William calling from Silver Spring, Maryland. William, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris, you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
You know, this alleged doctor yesterday from testifying in Congress about you can men get pregnant. Nobody seemed to ask her, is there any evidence she went to medical school, number one? And if she did, and she has a medical license, why does somebody in the state or in Congress demand that they remove her license?
Well, that's a fun question, actually, I've got to say, because if you're an OBGYN and you can't answer a really fundamental question like, can men give birth, can men have babies, maybe you shouldn't be practicing medicine. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's my point, Chris.
Yeah, sure.
That's my point.
Yeah.
But nobody's calling for an investigation of her medical license removed.
And whatever, she went, I think, University of North Carolina, and where else? I looked it up earlier. And she, honestly, the medical school that gave her a degree should be looking at...
lose her accreditation.
Honestly.
She should lose her accreditation.
Yeah, it's completely nuts. She is, again, and I'm going to get to this, the audio is just amazing, and we have, how many? We've got a number of sound bites on this. Senator Josh Hawley was just dumbstruck by it. He was slack-jawed, and he said, well, I'm sorry, you can't answer that question. And she kept just dancing around it and not answering because it's a mental illness. It's a cult, isn't it? They don't... They don't believe in biology, medicine.
Campaign. Suggest a calling campaign to University of North Carolina to have her medical license removed.
And what do you think will happen there? Because I'll guarantee that they'll do it, because the Democrat Party has all reached the point where they've dismantled, disassembled, deconstructed science and biology. And look, we've got a Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's a woman who says she doesn't know what a woman is. And we've got medical doctors who are OBGYNs who practice medicine and allegedly have successful practices. And they're brought before Congress, the Senate, by the Democrats to testify that she doesn't know whether, she didn't even say she doesn't know whether men can have babies. I think she's saying essentially that as far as she knows, men can have babies if they're born women and then say they're men, which again is the opposite of medicine, the opposite of biology, the opposite of culture, and the destruction of the English language.
Which begs the question, is there any evidence Ketanji Jackson went to law school? I mean, no one ever brings that up. I mean, really.
Well, she did.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember when she was going through confirmation and she couldn't say what a woman was because she's not a biologist. And then we've got a biologist in here, a medical doctor, and she can't say either. And I've got to say, William, the Democrat Party is a mental illness. Just membership in the Democrat Party is now, I think, officially a mental illness. When you're a medical doctor, when you're a Supreme Court justice, and you get, well, what about days of the week? Well, days of the week are subjective. To me, Saturday is Thursday. Well, okay, well that's fine, but that means you're mentally ill, right? And honestly, William, we need to call this stuff what it is, and we need to call it mental illness.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not limited to this. I mean, we had just last week in the Supreme Court, we had, and you made reference to it, in Ketanji Brown Jackson and the testimony before the Supreme Court on transgender, that is to say, men playing sports against women and girls, boys playing sports against girls. And again, the Democrat Party at the highest levels in Washington, D.C., in Congress and beyond, the Democrat Party and in medicine and on university campuses, they have just lost their grip on reality. And if you're that far gone, really, you should be living in a bus stop, muddling to yourself with a shopping cart full of other people's clothes.
I know.
They're nuts. And what do we do about them? Gosh, I really don't know. We call them out. We tell the truth about them. We acknowledge and recognize the obvious, even if they're incapable of doing that. And it's just amazing what the Democrat Party is doing and what they have done, what they've done to themselves, and what they're trying to inflict upon the rest of us. And honestly, William, the key here is that they can be nuts if they choose to be nuts. But we have to save society. We have to save civilization. We have to save the world and science and biology for future generations, even as these people seek to dismantle what we have acknowledged for millennia now is civilization. And Dr. Nisha Verma yesterday is just the latest example of all of this. Apparently, she originally from India, a far-off land. The Indian origin obstetrician and gynecologist Dr. Nisha Verma went viral for her response to whether men can become pregnant. She refused to give a direct answer. That's generous. To being asked if men can get pregnant, asked by Senator Ashley Moody first, and then by Senator Josh Hawley during a Senate hearing on abortion. And they're talking about abortion and like, well, men can get pregnant. But look, if you think that you're sitting here with a woman who's your sister or your mother or your wife, and if she says, well, I'm a man now, and you say, okay, you're a man now, then you shouldn't be allowed to drive a car or fly on airlines because you're a danger to yourself and everyone around you. Mental.
I know.
Mental cases.
Thanks.
And in Democrat Party circles, this is normal. Normal. And I've been talking about this for years. The mission of the Democrat Party is to make everything that appears normal to be abnormal and everything that appears abnormal to be normal. And they're making a good deal of headway. They've raised a generation or two on this diet of mental illness, of insanity. And it is potentially the death of Western civilization itself. And they know that. They know that. Yeah. William, well, keep paying attention and just know the truth. The truth is out there. Isn't that an old TV show slogan? That's the X-Files. Yeah, the truth is out there. And and maybe these are space aliens. They're lizards living among us. Just amazing. But I tell you, William, I've got that coming up, and I think I may not get to it in this hour because it's going to take a little time. But after the top of the hour, I want to get to Dr. Nisha Verma and Josh Hawley because this is one for the books, I've got to tell you. William, thank you. And it's the Democrat Party. And they were in the Supreme Court just a matter of days ago, where they're also saying things that are completely nuts and off the wall. And, again, more violence in Minnesota last night, and the Democrats are inciting more violence while insisting in the same sentence that they're not the ones inciting violence. Donald Trump is. It's a Trump derangement syndrome up the yin and the yang. Just extraordinary. And Tim Walz is out there, and their idiot mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey. That guy is really a piece of work. And we've got Frey, and of course there are there was all kinds of violence last night and fireworks, and another guy is shot by another ICE agent, and he's shot in the leg, which is again following Joe Biden's instructions. Joe Biden said, "Well, law enforcement, when an unarmed man attacks you with a knife," Joe Biden said, because They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. And Joe Biden's brain, she's a broke, she's a no good. And most of the Democrat Party is suffering from the same malady, apparently. These are extraordinary times. And I don't know, if I were growing up in this era, I'd like to think I'd see through all this stuff. At least by the time I was a teenager, I knew what was nuts when I was 12 years old. And I hope that 12-year-olds today can recognize, can see, and recognize what is nuts and see through the madness that the Democrat Party is peddling. But it's what generations in America are being raised on in grammar schools, high schools, certainly on college campuses, where Hamas are the good guys, Israel the bad guys. Forget about the massacres in Iran. What about Renee Good in Minneapolis? Who wasn't? We had Mike the Lib call in yesterday. I was on Newsmax TV last night, and I talked about Mike the Lib. I mentioned Mike the Lib on Newsmax TV last night. Said one of our regular calls on my radio show, Mike the Lib called in and insisted that it doesn't matter. Watch the video, listen to the audio, and said, he wasn't hit. The police officer wasn't hit by Renee Good. The car didn't hit the police officer. Here's the video. Here's the audio. And then while we were on the air, and it literally was right after Mike the Lib called in, and that this part is not even Mike the Lib's fault, because CBS News broke the news while I was talking to Mike the Lib on the phone, that the police officer that she hit with her SUV by directing it at him and punching it and crashing it into him, and then crashing into a parked car because she'd been shot in the face and everything, and that's bad and it's terrible and it's sad. And now her family is suing, and they got the George Floyd family law firm, because that law firm out of Chicago, not Minneapolis, got $27 million for the George Floyd family. I suspect they'll get more for the Renee Good family. The cast of characters that the Democrat Party throws at us, just extraordinary. It's like being a baseball fan. You got to follow the names and stats of multiple teams and all the people on the teams. But it's just they're just nuts. They're berserk. It's insane. And people are going crazy out there because of it and doing crazy things because of the Democrat Party making them crazy and convincing people that, Trump is Hitler, we're a fascist country, Hamas is good, men can have babies, little girls can say they're boys and then they're boys and we should treat them as boys and respect them as boys, instead of saying, no, you're a girl and you're going to grow up to be a woman, which is normal, but they are abnormal. Boy, are they abnormal. Just berserkly. But there they are. And we've got that audio coming up. I'll get to it right after the top of the hour because there's a lot of good stuff. And we're going to have to get, of course, to Minneapolis, where the angry mob was back on the street attacking federal law enforcement and being violent, because that's what the Democrats do, and chasing federal law enforcement out of a restaurant, ironically perhaps a Mexican restaurant, which makes it a little more fun and extraordinary. Also, a judge, the Democrats sued the Trump administration. You can't enforce federal law in Minnesota. We're a breakaway Confederate republic. We're Minnesota, but we're not part of the United States of America. And because of the 10th Amendment, slavery. And the judge is actually a Biden judge that handed ICE and the Trump administration a legal win. Wait, federal law enforcement can enforce law inside the United States of America, even if Democrats are violent rabble that are protecting and saving Laotian child rapists and putting them back on the street, even though they're in the country illegally and they've been arrested and convicted, horrible crimes, including murder, and the Democrat Party wants them back on the street. There's something wrong with their brains. All right, we are going to get the Senate hearing on men getting pregnant and the Democrat Party, and we shouldn't make fun of the mentally ill, but I will anyway. Let's go back to the telephones. I mean, honestly, if you can't make fun of the mentally ill, you can't make fun of any Democrat anymore. That won't work for me. Let's go to Steve calling from Ashburn, Virginia. Stephen, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, Chris. Excellent subject and coverage of the topic. If we're going to be talking about facts, how about asking the doctor if she thinks men can get pregnant? From how many men has she delivered babies? Just a number. I know women have trouble with math sometimes, but just how many, and then how many by cesarean section, and then produce a list of them. So let's interview these men and let's see their babies.
That's good. And C-section, yeah, because men getting C-section, it would be, look, if I were pregnant and I had a baby growing in my belly, given everything that's going on there, I'd think I'd want a C-section.
Yes, and then we should see whether or not these children who have been delivered from men are getting child care, going to the Leering Center and things like that.
The Leering
for them.
The Leering Center, exactly. The Leering Center is now a permanent part of the American lexicon, I think, if you're paying attention. And Democrats will never get it because they never even heard that. But that's funny. And, yeah, you think passing a kidney stone is a terrible and painful thing. Imagine giving birth. And definitely C-section. All men who are pregnant should opt for C-section so you don't, cause any more damage than is already there. And it is a great point, Steve. Should have asked her. And Senator Hawley's a smart guy, and he does a good job most of the time. But you're right. You're an OBGYN. How many babies have you delivered? And ask that. And, I've given 100,000 abortions and, something like that. And how many men? And then just the confusion on her face would say it all. And the reality is the confusion on her face and in her language yesterday did say it all. And this is an opportunity for people, under the age of 70 I was thinking about school age people, but, under college age, we should take this video and play it in classrooms across America and laugh at this person. But Democrats, they'll have teachers show this, and they'll attack Josh Hawley for making sense. Stop making sense. Stop making sense. What are we going to do about the Democrat Party?